Hi, and welcome to In Father's House, a spiritual podcast where we talk about God, we talk about the mind, we talk about how to find inner peace, joy, and happiness. It is a spiritual podcast, so the tools and the things we are going to be sharing is from a spiritual point of view. So if you are interested in this, then I invite you to come along with me on this journey that you too can find inner peace, happiness, and joy through God. Thank you for watching. Okay, so in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to control your mind. And so, dear soul, you who suffer from social anxiety and hide from them, you are constantly having panic attacks in front of friends, colleagues, and strangers. So, in today's episode, we are going to be looking at a specific case about a soul who has been having panic attack. She had a recent incident where she had panic attack at the reception area of her office, where her colleagues, her boss, and strangers were gathered. She feels ashamed and embarrassed knowing that she had this experience in front of her senior and junior colleagues and in front of strangers. And so she wants to know how to control her thoughts, how to control her mind to avoid such an occurrence in the future. So, dear soul, I have an exciting news for you. There is a new way. There is a new way to live in which you can create your life, in which you can create a world. Because as you all know, we all live in our different bubbles. We live in our different worlds. The bubbles and the world we live in, we have self-created these bubbles. Some people have created it consciously. Some people have unconsciously created these bubbles. So, but however, I have good news for you. There's a new way to live now without fear. And that new way of living without fear is living from God's mind. You know, the reason I'm emphasizing God and not using too much of spirituality is because of the so much mixture about spirituality. So I'm going directly to specifically say that the methods we are going to be sharing, the tools I'm going to be sharing with you in this video today, we are going to be looking at it from a God's point of view. In order to do that, we have to understand that for you to be able to get control, for you to be able to control something or to get hold onto, you need to have an understanding of what this is about. So in today's episode, the topic of today's episode is how to control your mind. For you to be able to control your mind, you need to understand how the mind is framed. You know, so knowing how the mind is framed, how your thoughts are processed, where the thought comes from, and how this thought controls us. Because for so many people, they are being controlled by their mind. They are being controlled by a thought process. Knowing how your thoughts are processed, knowing how they are formed, and how they control you will help you to understand your mind and to even detach from its influence. So basically, it's very important that for us to really get a grasp, we need to understand how the mind works, and then so that we can be able to address it accordingly. So for these tools that I'm going to share with you, for it to be able to work for you, you have to have a foundation, an understanding of what God is. So God is mind. There are so many things people have said about the mind, the human mind, and so many other things. But what I know is that there is only one mind, and that one mind is God. I believe that when God created man, God actually created the mind. The mind is the man God created. So dear soul, I want you to know today that if this is going to work for you, if you are interested in finding true, pure happiness, inner peace, joy, and lasting happiness, then you have to understand that, you have to understand that your mind was created by God. And I have this diagram here to illustrate that, just to be able to show you that your mind is built upon this truth, upon this foundation, that there is only one life, one being, and one existence. The life here means God. It means mind. The 7 point something billion people on the earth are living from this same life. That is the only life. And it is that life that sustains everyone. So there is only one being. There is only one life. There is only one God. So the only life that you have is from the man God created in the beginning. When God says, let us create man in our image and in our likeness. So the only man God created is Christ. So for you to be able to live life to the fullest, to your fullest potential, you have to recognize that the only man, God created only one man, and that man is Christ Jesus. And that man, if you watch my previous video, I explained to you that Christ is the prototype for every man. So for you, if you have not watched that video, I don't want to make this video too long. It's already going to be long. I don't want it to be too long. So for you to get understanding of what I mean by Christ is the only man God created, and that you are Christ, you should watch my previous video. So the only man God created is Christ. So for you to be able to live this life, a life of happiness, a life of joy and peace, inner peace, you have to recognize that God is the only life, and God is the only mind. And this life, this mind, I call it your God self. So this God self is the only self that God created, and this self is Christ, and it is your God self. So this God self is fully equipped to flood your life with happiness, with peace, with joy. It is on this foundation, one of these pillars, that your life is built, that your mind is built, that your mind is programmed. And so the survival of this man, when God created this one man, Christ Jesus, God determined, God programmed that this man, the survival of this man, Christ, is tied to the connectedness of you and the mind. You recognizing, realizing, identifying yourself with the mind, which is the mind of Christ. That's why the Bible says that let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. So once you're able to recognize this truth, then you realize that this is the truth that will sustain you. For the soul, for you, dear soul, who is going through, who is having panic attack, depression, anxiety, and you've had so many multiple attacks, panic attacks, for you to be able to live a happy and joyful life, a life free from panic attack and all those things that have troubled your soul, you have to recognize that you are a spirit being, and this spirit being is Christ, and this Christ is your God self. And live your life based on that. You have to identify yourself with this life that is in you, and that life is Christ. The next pillar upon which your mind is built and constructed is that there is one being. I've already spoken about the one being, which is yourself, which is Christ. You know, your God self. How important it is. It is very of paramount important that you recognize yourself as this self. You identify yourself as Christ, as the God self. And if you want to know more, again in my previous video. So you have to understand that this God self is equipped with everything that you need to have joy. I would like to give you a picture of what this God self brings. This diagram illustrates this God self that I am talking about. When God created man, he created male and female, and the male is the spirit, the soul is the female. And God desired, said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. And that process of spiritual reproduction gave birth to this Christ. The Christ I said, this is your prototype. So once you live in this state of mind, you recognize that you are a spirit being and live in this state of mind, then this is what comes along with this life that I'm introducing to you, your God self life. Once you recognize that you are a spirit being, you are Christ. So then the spirit and the soul start working in perfect harmony as they were ordained. Your mind, this is a picture of how your mind functions. Your mind start working with perfect harmony. So you see in this part of the mind where you have the spirit, that is where you can access happiness, peace, joy, and wealth, harmony, perfection, wholeness. And of course, this part is the seed. This part is the seed word. That seed word, once it's planted in the womb of the soul, you start having perfect and good emotion. You start having the willingness to do the will of God, to do that which you are supposed to do. You start living in your full purpose and in your full potential. So the God self is tied to its connectedness to the mind. So this God self, for your mind to be able to, for you to live in your fullest potential, your mind has to be connected to your spiritual nature. It is that connectivity between your God self and between your God self that sustains you to be able to live successfully in this world, to be able to have happiness, peace, and joy. And that was that connectedness. That was a connectedness Jesus Christ recognized and realized and identified with. That is why Jesus Christ was able to live an exceptionally good and fruitful life, because he recognized the fact that he is Christ. He is a spirit being, and he was connected to the mind and lived the life to the fullest. Your God self has to be connected to the mind, to the truth that God is all. You have to believe that God, the heavens, the earth, everything that sustains, everything that you see upon the face of the earth comes from God and is God. So God is all, meaning that within your innermost being, you know that the I am that I am is the only I am everywhere, even now. So what does this mean? This means that your God self is an all-inclusive being. Everything is created by him and is in him. All of creation comes from God and is God. Any identification, anything less than this is not God, is not mine. If you have anything like this, that is not this, that doesn't represent God as a spirit being, then you are not living your life out of a man, out of God. And so, that's why the Bible says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Because despite the fact that man is equipped with power and possibilities, and yet man made in the likeness and image of God with infinite possibilities and ultimate power lives in darkness, suffering and pain. Why? Because they have not recognized the truth. So, dear soul, based on what I just shared, I want to encourage you to make a habit of seeing yourself as God sees you. How does God see you? God sees you as Christ. God sees you as a spirit being. For this is how your mind is. This is how your mind is programmed. These are the foundation of your mind. God's automatic process of the mind, that's how it functions. And before I move further, I want you to notice that God created only one being, and the sustenance and survival of this being is conditioned on this. It is determined and conditioned on this being's connection, on this being, on you connecting to your God self, identifying with your God self, becoming aware with your God self, and knowing that you are mine, or knowing that you are that nature that expression, complete and full expression of God. So now, I have a question for you, dear soul. Are you aware of your God self? Did you know that you are mine? Did you know that your mind is your true self? Please let me know in the comments below. How do you identify yourself? Do you identify yourself as a human being, or do you identify yourself as a spirit being? Because you cannot be a human being and a spirit being. Everything I'm going to be sharing with you on this video today, you have to take a stand. It's either, if you want it to be effective, you want it to work for you, then you have to take a stand. You cannot be a human being and a spirit being. It's not possible, because that's where duality comes in. You cannot be good or bad, God and not God. It's either you are a God being or you are not a God being. But the truth is that you are a God being, even though you are not aware. So please let me know in the comments below if you are aware of your God self, because this God self is inherent in every man. The still small voice, that little tiny voice that speaks to you always, that voice is the God in you. So did you know, were you aware of your God self? Did you know that your mind is your true self? Okay, so please let me know in the comments below. So now I want us to take a look at what is going on in the mind of the soul who is suffering from social anxiety and hiding from them. So this soul is having problem with her mind. And just for clarification, this is a spiritual talk show. I'm going to be sharing cases of souls that are suffering. And if you listen to it, you watch it, and you are interested, and you want your soul is going through something, and you want me to talk about your soul and to show you and to provide kind of direction on how to support your soul, or recover your soul from recover from, or wake up from his sleep, just let me know just drop it in the comment. I would love to treat your cases like this one. So this is a soul that is having problem with her mind. This particular soul is experiencing a flood. Is experiencing a high flood of negative thoughts, negative and anxious thoughts. So the negative and anxious thought shows that, from a spiritual standpoint, shows that this soul is struggling, seriously struggling to survive. It also indicates that her supply of happiness, inner peace, is disconnected. Remember, I said the soul, because when God created man, God created only one man. And he programmed in that mind that for you to be able to survive on this, for you to be able to survive, you must be connected to your mind. So, but from this case that I look at, it is evident that the soul is struggling to survive, which means that, or which indicates that, her supply of happiness, joy, inner peace is not flowing. It implies she is disconnected from her mind, because the mind she is living from cannot give her, the mind she is living from cannot give her the happiness, the joy, the peace, and stop those negative thoughts and those panic attacks, because she is living from a different mindset, from a different consciousness, which cannot or is not equipped with to give her peace, joy, and happiness. If you look at this diagram, you see that the soul, you see that the spirit part of this relationship, this union, the spirit part of the mind, that's where you find happiness, peace, joy, wholeness, harmony, completeness. And so for her soul to be on a survival mode, it means that there's a disconnection between the soul and the spirit. So it means that her soul The soul is not connected to the fullness. So because of that, she's unable to live her fullest potential. She's unable to live a happy life because of this disconnection. Because her soul is not connected to her God self. Remember, survival of the man God created is tied to the connectedness to the mind. And this here, my friend, is the mind. This is a picture of our mind, where the spirit and the soul function together in union, harmony, as a marriage that cannot be destroyed, a marriage that cannot be separated. If you want to know more about that union and marriage, you watch my previous video, you will see that there. So because this soul has fallen asleep, she cannot access her spiritual, she cannot access her husband, the spirit. She cannot access the male part. And so as a result of this disconnectedness, she's having panic attack, struggling to survive. So this is an indication that there's a disconnection to the mind. So the mind she is living from is not the original mind that God created her with. It's either she's not aware of her mind, or either she has forgotten. Please, if you have any question, please just ask me. I will make another video just to make sure that I explain these principles very, very clear. I'm trying my best to make sure that I explain it very well and clearly. This explains why she's finding ways to control her mind. She's looking for methods to control her thoughts. She has been using human tools. She has been using human methods. It works for a while, then it stops working. And then she lives in that constant fear of having another attack. Now, you watching this video, have you tried at any point in your life to control your mind and you are unable to do so? In my experience, this happens especially when your mind starts popping those negative stuff in your head, and you get so frustrated when you are unable to control those thoughts or even detach yourself from there. I remember when I didn't know what I know now. Sometimes it was as if I was going mad. I was going to go mad because the thoughts were just flowing and it was uncontrollable. So for anyone watching this video, if you've been trying to control your mind, you've been dealing with struggles with your mind, with your thoughts, all this indicates that you're living your life out of a false consciousness. You're living your life out of a false mind. It means your soul is unable to receive happiness, peace, and joy from the spirit, her husband, as I just showed it in this diagram. So every disconnection that happens, every man suffering, struggling with the matters of the mind, is because of a spiritual disconnection. And it's so foolish that the Bible says that the wisdom of God is foolishness to man, and the wisdom of man is foolishness to God. You know, this, when we look at mental health issues and all the things that people are going through, we sought out for human solutions. We use human tools to fix these problems. They've tried, invested so much money in this issue of mental health, and humans have still not succeeded to fix it. They will crack the brain and look for answers. They can't find it. Why? Because the matters of the mind are spiritual matters. You cannot use a human solution to address a spiritual matter. Because the Bible says that to be carnally minded is death. So for you, living from a human perspective, that shows that believing that you are a human being shows that you are carnally minded. And the people who are carnally minded, they cannot understand the nature and the things of the Spirit, which is God. So that is why I believe that addressing mental health issue needs a higher power. And there is only one power, and that power is God. And there is actually nothing to fix when it comes to mental health. It's just that the soul, it has everything to do with the soul. That's why the problems I'm going to be treating and helping to solve and support and encourage, I'm addressing the soul, because the one that is dealing with the social anxiety is the soul that is dealing it, but it's a reflection of what is going on in her mind that is expressed in her body. Okay, let me not get distracted. So, from a God point of view, what is going on with the human? What is going on with this soul? Why is this soul going through what she's going through? From a God point of view, a false image has been presented to you as your mind. For you are mine. You are your mind. But for you to be experiencing these things, it means that a false image has been presented to you to be your mind. The you I am referring to, I'm referring to your God self. Your God self is there lying dormant within you, because your soul has fallen asleep. And because she has fallen asleep, she's not aware, she's not conscious that she's even a spirit being. And so for this problem to be addressed, to be fixed, to end, your soul has to eliminate this false concept, this false image of herself, to liberate herself from all the things that has entangled her. She has to let go of all the beliefs. And so that brings me to another point, something that is one of the most important thing for you to understand, because we all talk about negative thoughts. We all talk about the soul's struggle, their struggles. Did you know that the one that is causing all this trouble is what you call your personality? This personality, I'm sure you do not know that personality that you believe yourself to be is also known as your ego. Christians call it the devil. Let me share with you what I mean. So, in this diagram, I wrote the making of the human mind. So, what is going on with the mind? What is going on with the soul? Dear soul, who is going through panic attacks, social anxiety, trauma, depression, this is what is going on in your mind. Your soul fell asleep. And because your soul fell asleep, in her sleep, she assumed that she is a personality. A thought came to her. She created an image of a false sense of self. This sense of self was created by your soul in her sleep. And this false sense of self is what is known as the personality. For your soul gave that personality a name. It gave it a date of birth. Of course, your soul is a spirit being. But because she is asleep, she has forgotten that she is a spirit being. And so she gave this personality and said, this is who you are. She did not just give you a personality. She came up with a system of beliefs, a way of thinking, a way of reasoning. And she gave birth to a world. So once, as your soul gave this personality, she created a world for herself. In this world, she introduced what is known as time. And that time, an example of that time can be seen in the fact that this personality had a date of birth, the day this personality was born. And of course, the time the personality would die. So he gave this personality a date, a time frame. In God, there is no time. God is a dimensionless being. God is not limited to geography. It's not limited to time. It's not limited to the things that have limited human beings. And so this construct was from the soul in her sleep. She brought forth beliefs. She introduced what is called duality. Instead of seeing that God created only one man, she sees all the people of the world and say they are different and say there are 7 billion people. And of course, the introduction of death, that you have a beginning, you have an end, the day you die, and the day you were born, and the day you will die. So, the soul also introduced what we know as religion. That is why religion is even, it makes it even more sad, because as in religion, these are the people who claim to represent God on earth. But most of them have no clue who God is. And the things and the stories they have interpreted and tell us from generation to generation about God. Yet man is suffering, and men are losing faith in God, thinking that God is not just, it's not even, it's not, God doesn't exist. God exists. But religion has not seen God, because religion came from this personality. And so the soul gave an idea, an assumption that a personality, a system of belief, he came up with a human law. He introduced a new world. That is the world that we have each created for ourselves. And we'll talk about this world as we move on. So, the soul now, after creating all these things, the soul, she now looked at the form. There is only one body, and that body is the body of Christ, and that body is a spiritual body. She now gave this form and called it a human being. So human being, God never created a human being. This human being is just a concept that the soul came up with in her dream. And so all these things, the personality, the belief system, this world, the time, religion, beliefs and opinions, the soul now put it under. They're all hiding behind this guy. The soul now assumed and associated these imaginary thoughts and associated it to your body and say that this is who you are. And so you are going through what you are going through because you have believed yourself to be all these things. And you are not aware of the fact that you are a spirit being. As a result of that, this human being is because this human being, you don't know who you are. You believe that you are this human being. You know that you have a beginning and you have an end. You've forgotten that you are a spirit being, as in the soul. So now, this body, the body now, the soul now associated your body to this human being. And that's why the body, this personality is very evil. This is what they call the devil. This is the author of every negativity. Everything darkness, bad in this world comes from this personality. This is where your negative thought comes from. Everything stems from this guy. So now, because you have believed yourself to be this guy, all these things are hiding under this body. And the reason why they are having influence on you, because you are God. Nothing can happen to you if you do not give it permission to happen. That's a fact. And so all these things are happening to you, taking hold, sickness, emotional pain, physical pain, loneliness, social anxiety, panic attack, depression, fear of death. All these things are influencing and controlling your life because you have believed yourself to be this personality. It's just like a tree. That's why you can able to hang these fruits. This is the fruit of believing that you're a human being. So it can hang you with any kind of sickness. It can give you emotional pain every day you wake up. So this is just in a nutshell for you to understand the making of the human mind and how the human ideology, the concept of human being came from, how it originated from a spiritual point of view. So now that we understand this, now if you are living a life where your soul is disconnected from your God self, it means your soul is in her sleep. It means your soul is sleeping, and in her sleep, she has allowed this personality. She has allowed the ego, the devil, I call it the dream man, to pop negative thoughts and ideas into your head, into what they call the human mind. And so this is the mind the soul is now living from. Remember, the sustenance of this man God created, this form, is supposed to come from your God self. But because your soul fell asleep, she has introduced a new mind, a new way of thinking, a new way of perception, perceiving, conceiving. So this personality is the one who now conceives thoughts, negative thought, ideas. And you now see life, perceive things, interpret things, give meaning to things from this point of view. So that's why this personality can pop thoughts and ideas into your head, into your mind, and create a set of habits. By you holding on to this belief, you create a set of habits for yourself. You create a world for yourself, and a set of habits which unconsciously come into play as a kind of automatic unconscious thought, which thereby triggers your emotions and behavior. So how does this happen? Usually, for your emotions, dear soul, this usually happens when your emotions and your behavior have been processed in a particular way repeatedly. So much so that it becomes a second nature. Now, the personality, the ego, the devil is the one who influences every negative thought, every negative and painful emotions. So dear soul, your panic attack, the social anxiety, the depression, the only reason you are experiencing that is because you are living a life where your soul is disconnected from your God self. Your soul is disconnected from your mind, the original mind, the one and only mind God created. This means your soul is asleep, and in her sleep, she has allowed the personality, the ego, the devil, the dream man, I call it the dream man, or the thought man. Your soul in her sleep has allowed the thought man to pop up negative thoughts, negative ideas, anxious thoughts, and ideas into your mind. Human beings will say they pop it into your brain. They have allowed those thoughts to pop in your mind, and have created a set of habits which unconsciously comes into play as automatic thoughts, as automatic unconscious thoughts, which triggers your emotions and your behavior. So usually, for this to happen, your emotions and your behavior must have been processed repeatedly in a certain way, so much so that it has become a second nature. You see, the panic attack you are having, it just didn't just happen. It is the way you have created a system of beliefs, and that automates your reaction towards your emotion and your behavior. So, let's focus on the example of the suffering soul, suffering from social anxiety, having multiple panic attacks, and is hiding. What is going on? What is going on in her mind? How could you explain? How can you understand your mind from a spiritual perspective? This soul wakes up in the morning. Before she even steps her leg out of her bed, she begins to think about what will happen. What will other people say to her? She imagined that she is going to go to work. And then in her mind, all those colleagues, the senior colleagues and the junior colleagues, what would they be talking about her? What would they think about her? So these are the thoughts that goes on in her mind. Let me know in the comment below if you have experienced something like this, and if this is how the thought comes up. So what is going on is that the personality. Let me show you what is going on in your mind. Remember in the previous diagram, I told you about the personality. I told you about the system of beliefs. And I did mention that your soul consists of your womb, your will, and your emotions. So let me use this diagram to explain to you what's going on in your mind. In this diagram, I mentioned thought creation. So what happens is that when your soul wakes up in the morning, this personality has built vaults of memories, of emotions, of trauma. And in those vaults, you have stuff like personal attainment. This personality, the one you have identified yourself with. I'm just giving an example of this soul going through this. She's a hard worker. She has accomplished so much in life. If you see in this diagram, she has built different bricks, showing her accomplishment. And while building and becoming so successful, she has always been struggling with anxiety, with panic attacks, with depression. But she has been hiding it, making sure that nobody sees her like that. Because the systems of belief and opinion, the society, sees somebody who goes through mental health issue, panic attack, as a weakling, as not strong enough, as something is wrong with you. So based on the systems, the belief systems that we have hold, that the society look at us, the personality now, the ego, she has accomplished so much, her personal accomplishment, her fear of losing her reputation, her fear of losing all that she has accomplished, her fear of being embarrassed in front of her colleagues, both senior and junior, and in front of those strangers, makes her when she wakes up in the morning, she worries about those things. And where do those things have not happened? She hasn't even gone out yet. She just wakes up from the bed, and her brain is going like a radio without frequency. Why? Because of all the number of times that she has gone through having panic attack, both big and small. She saved those experiences in this vault, in each of her vaults, in her mind. Some could fall under personal attainment. That's why she's trying to protect this man, so that people will not laugh at this man. The fear of losing everything that she has worked for. And of course, what is the society saying? How does the society label people who go through this? And of course, she has a vault. You see this vault? It has beliefs and opinion, logic and reasoning. I am a human being. I believe in this. I have this as my belief system. This is what is, you have time, you have location, you have distance. Those are the things that are saved in all those vaults. Vaults of memories, sickness, failure, limitation, all the experiences, the things that she has gone, all the sickness, panic attack, emotional pain and trauma that she has gone through, everything is saved in this vault. And so when she wakes up in the morning and she begins to think about what will happen when other people find out that she is suffering from panic attack, anxiety. And what are the implications of this on her job, on her social status? She's trying to protect this personality. She's trying to protect this image. that was given birth by the soul. And so, because she has to maintain that status, her accomplishment, her attainment, she has to fight and struggle with this anxiety. Memories of the panic attacks. Memories of the panic attack, of the multiple panic attacks, experiences, belief created are all stored in this vault or her storehouse, or what is known as consciousness. This is like a house. This is what she is conscious of. You cannot give what you do not have. So she will always give you what she has. And what does she have? This is her vault. Consists of her personality, her systems of belief, and so her soul gave birth to this human being. So her state of consciousness, how she thinks, feel, determine how her day goes. So these memories and experience are all tied to the various emotions and behaviors. It is even tied to even colors and smells and certain places and times of occurrence. I once had a case where a soul was raped, and every time we hang out, one day everything was just okay, just walking around the mall, and all of a sudden this soul just went into a serious panic attack. I couldn't wrap my brain what was going on. I couldn't understand, because we were having a nice time. And after some time, when I spoke to this soul, in our conversation, I discovered that she had a trigger. The person who molested her wore a red sweater. And every time she sees red, it triggers her and takes her into a serious panic attack. What happened is that all the memories of that experience, the pain, is like just an open wound in front of her. So the memories, the panic attacks are all tied, every emotion, they're all tied to each and every emotions, each and every behavior. Some are tied to colors, some are tied to smells, where you perceive a smell, like you work with people who have been in warring environment. When certain smells, it triggers them into post-traumatic stress. So different souls are having the same experience with different triggers. Smell, certain places, time of occurrence. All these memories are memories of false record, of the personality, of the devil, of the ego. And these memories are tied to you because you have believed this is who you are, because this is who you have believed yourself to be. And the only reason why this happens to you is because you have believed yourself to be the image your soul gave birth to. You have believed yourself to be the personality with a record of a past. And so you wake up each morning thinking of the shame and the embarrassment you felt. You think of the shame and the embarrassment you felt when you had panic attack in front of the reception with strangers and colleagues. So when those negative thoughts start popping up, it triggers those emotions stored in this warehouse in your consciousness. I also want you to know that your consciousness is like a house. It's your well that you have created, because this is everything you are conscious of. So the feeling reminds you of your past experiences, to the extent that sometimes, for some people it gets so bad to the point that they don't even need to take thought, because your feelings itself, the way you feel, is in itself a trigger. It's a sense of trigger. It triggers you. And so, because this has been programmed, this is your house, this is how you believe yourself to be. Every time something happens that comes, maybe it's a smell, maybe it's a panic attack, whatever the trigger might be, it comes like a vicious circle. And so you continually have a vicious circle of this. And of course, before I forget this thing, this person, I want you to know very importantly that this personality is hiding behind your body. This is not who you are. These are all the things that are going on in your mind. That's why no research, no screening, no machine is going to see this thing, because they are all illusionary thoughts. It's happening in the dream. And so your soul gave birth to what is termed the ideology, the term, the concept human being. This human being now hides behind your body, and you think that this is happening to your mind. You say this is happening to your brain. God created your brain, and it is perfect. There's nothing wrong with your brain. Let them crack your brain to any extent. They won't be able to understand why you're having depression, having panic attack, having anxiety, having social anxiety. Social anxiety is a human problem, and humanity itself is an illusion. So the only solution is for your soul to wake up. This is good news, in my opinion. Why? Because these things are all hiding, and it was attached, and it's hiding behind your body, assuming that this is who you are. Imagine, don't just imagine, just cut off this personality and just realize that this is not who I am. Let your soul wake up and realize that, oh, this body is not even, this body is separate from all this junk. And what happens? So the recollection of your past memories and problems causes sudden mood swings. That's why you can see somebody happy this moment, the next second the person is experiencing sudden sadness, pain, and withdrawal. And you're like, why? This person is having a mood swing. It's because of this. It's because the state of consciousness that this soul is in is what is being reflected on her body. How she thinks and feels fits into that consciousness. And where does all those information comes from? They comes from this vault that she has built, including personal attainment, history from the time she was born, believing she was like that, fear of loss, beliefs and opinion, logic and reasoning, emotional past experiences, memories. All this stuff, emotional past experiences and memories are built on this. That is what is filled in all these vaults. So, vaults of memory, sickness, failure, limitation, systems of belief, personality, and all these are now put under attack called human being. And so, as they process this, that is where your thoughts comes from. That's where your struggle. Everything is what you have built for yourself. As I call it, you built a jail cell for yourself. And so, as I was talking about it, I was saying that this body, all these things are hiding behind this body. Now, let's talk about your body. What is your body? Your body is a vessel of expression. Remember, God created you. Even if you don't believe in God, but God created you. Everyone you see on the face of the earth came from God. Your body is like an object. Just like you have a knife, you have a spoon. Just like you see trees, you see all those things. That your body is a vessel. It's just an object. It's a container. But God chooses your body. He didn't choose to dwell in a tree. He didn't choose to live in a stone. Even though the stone is in God, even though that stone came from God, even though the trees come from God, because everything you see in creation is God. It's an expression of God. It's a manifestation of that which is within God. So I often say that God is it's just like a pregnant woman. God, everything, the whole of creation is in God. It's a manifestation of God. So everything, even to the slightest dust, is God. It came from God. So but in all of creation, God chose to dwell on your body. So your body is a vessel of expression. It expresses what is in the mind. By default, your body is the dwelling place of God. The Bible tells you this. The Bible says, don't you know that your body is a temple of the Most High God? And so your body is a vessel of expression. It expresses what is in your mind. So it is that same concept that this personality used to hide behind your body. But it is not in your body. It is just an illusion. So, your body is a vessel of expression. It expresses what is in your mind. By default, your body is a dwelling place of God. For the Bible says that, know you not that your body is a temple of God. So your body is where God expresses himself. You know that God is spirit. But God created everything that we see, and everything that we see is spirit, because they all came from God. So they are spirit. That's one of the mysteries of God. You understand? So God dwells in your body. And because God is spirit, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. So this is God's way, where God can express himself and enjoy the things he has created. That's why you are the God self. That God self, remember I said it's only one man God created. It's only one being. And that being is God. God expressing himself, enjoying life. And your body is that visible expression of your invisible self, of your God self. So this is the body from a God point of view. God created your body that he might experience life, experience the things that he has created through your body, through this form. But now, because you do not know who you are, because you do not know that you are spirit, because you do not know you have identified with your personality. Now your personality, the evil devil, the ego, hides behind your body and project it as you. I want you to take note, because this is key. This is one of the key you will need to free yourself from every experiences of panic attack, depression, social anxiety, trauma, name it, all of human problem. Because this answer is God is the answer to all human problems. One answer to fix all of humanity's problem. So now what I want you to know is that because you do not know who you are, the personality, the ego, the devil hides behind your body and project it as you. Think about it. And of course, your body now presents what is reflected in her mind. So because you have believed that you are that personality, your body now reflects everything that is in the mind of that personality. Let's see some of the things that your body reflects. Here are some of the things that your body reflects. All the things that were put in your consciousness, in those vaults, those databases, your body now reflects them. So your body then presents what is reflected in your mind. So you see, all these things that are working at the background hides behind your body. And this is the false mind. This is the mind that anyone who believes is a human being, this is the mind that he or she is living from. So your body now reflects what is in this mind. What is in this mind? A false sense of self, a false sense of mind, You're living from a wrong mind, a mind that is not created by God. That mind can see sickness, emotional pain, physical pain, loneliness, sadness, social anxiety, panic attacks, depression, fear of death. The list is endless. So your body now reflects those things that are stored in your database based on whatever trigger, what you think or feel at every moment. Your body now reflects those things. Why? Because you have believed it to be true. You have believed that to be your truth. And because you have the soul has the will, the womb, and the emotion. If you have not believed those things to be true, those things will never be true. Because your soul has the womb. He has the ability to give birth, to make things come into manifestation. Because your soul is God. It's part of God. It's a female part of God's nature. So because you have believed these things to be true, this personality can pop in all forms of negative ideas and lies. It will never happen. It will never come to pass. The only circumstances or condition for it to happen is because your soul allows it, believes it to be true. And so all your beliefs, your opinions, those things that have formed and sustained this man, you believe them to be true. You send it as a seed. It's like a seed passed to the womb and planted, and they have nurtured to develop into this warehouse. And this is what is your current state of consciousness. So your current state of consciousness is what is now reflected in your body. The sad thing is that your state of being reflects your past experiences. It's not like something has happened, a projection of a future that has not happened, yet it takes you to a panic attack. It makes you miserable. You struggle every day because you believe in a past that has not happened, yet you do not know that you believe in a past. So I want you to notice that what you think and how you view yourself determines your feeling. This way of thinking, feeling, and programming is the false programming of the soul of man in her sleep. This programming is what your soul has programmed. It's different from the way God programmed your mind. And all this programming cannot even stay in the mind, because your mind can never be tainted, touched, or adulterated. So all these programmings, these are the things that predict, this programming that predicts a false future happening, false belief or opinion of yourself. So living your life out of this state of consciousness will keep you in the jail cell of human thinking. And there's pretty much nothing you can do. You can do a little bit of meditation here and there, and it gives you a few relief, but yet it comes back. The only way out is Christ. So seriously, at the end of the day, there's really nothing you can do. The only way you can help yourself is for your soul to wake up. So there is no need for you to try going out to figure out how to control this damage. There is no need for damage control, dear soul. For to permanently end your social anxiety, your panic attacks, you have to become aware of your true self. And your true self is the God self. You know, from a human point of view, most problems are fixed at the level of starting with the problem. Then when there is a problem, you want to fix it, you start with that problem and then fix it. But that is different from a God point of view. For from a God point of view, you address the situation from the point of view of the truth. And this is the order I want us to tackle this problem. So from a God point of view, you address your situation from the point of view of truth. And of course, this is the order that I'm going to be taking to address this story. So now that we understand the mind, now that we understand how our consciousness are formed, now that we understand all those things, the thinking, how this thinking came about, now, dear soul, I want to remind you, if you didn't know, if you knew, I want to remind you, if you didn't know, I want you to know that you are a spirit being. As a spirit being, you have no beginning and you have no end. You don't live in the now. You don't live in the past. You don't live in the future. As a God being, God lives in the now. For now is now is limitless. Now is dimensionless. Now has no beginning. Now has no end. And as such, you do not have any history to save in all these vaults. You do not have a race. You are not a human being. All this history, race, thinking you're a human being, and all the things that are connected, tied to this human nature. If you want to free yourself permanently, you have to let those things go. Yes, you have to let all your attainment, because that's what the mind is going to use to hold you back. Tell you all the implication if you do not let go. You have to let them go. So you do not have any history. You don't have a race. You are not a human being. You have to leave the panic attack. Very importantly, dear soul, you have to leave the panic attacks and social anxiety entirely out of consideration, because it is not the problem. So you see the panic attacks, the social anxiety, the depression, the anxiety, the trauma that you have been experiencing it. I have good news for you. That is not the problem. Your social anxiety is not the problem. Your panic attack is not the problem. It's entirely out of consideration from the God point of view when we have to fix this issue. So you have to leave the panic attack, the social anxiety entirely out of consideration. It is not the problem, even though it appears as the problem. The only problem is that your soul slept. That's the problem. Because when your soul wakes up now, what is she going to see? She'll realize that she's a spirit being. The only problem is that your soul slept. So there needs to be a waking up of your soul. Your soul needs to wake up. Another point I want you to consider, and please, all these things that I'm sharing, the only way you can know if these things are working is when you listen to what I'm saying and start applying them in your life. And don't worry, if just you listening to me, it means that your God self is already waking up. Because I know somebody will ask, how do my soul wake up? It is only God who can wake your soul up. And anybody who comes and watch my content, I know that it is God that has sent them to watch it. And it means that you are ready for this deliverance. So I want you to take opportunity that whatever you hear, try and listen to them carefully and apply them into your life. That's the only way to see that this is working. This is the truth. God, and so based on that, I need you to know that the truth I said that for us to fix from a spiritual perspective, from a God perspective, to address a problem, you have to start with the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is that there is only one God. There is only God. And there is only one mind. And there is only mind. God is all in all. And nothing exists except God. For all things were made by Him, in Him, and through Him. The truth is that nothing else exists except God. This God and mine is perfect. This God and your mind, the mind God created, is perfect and cannot be defiled or adulterated in any way. You are a product of this God. You are a product of this God and mine. And you cannot be defiled. And this product is your God self. You are perfect here and now. You are enough. You are sufficient. And this you I'm referring to is not your false sense of self as a human being. I'm referring to this your God self. And this perfect God self is absolute now, is complete. He is full and in full operation, acting right now. So what do you need to do? Here are the things I need you to do. Or these are the things to build your foundation. As the Bible says that, as you have bore the image of the earthly, so shall you bear the image of the heavenly. As you have created your own world as a false sense of self, and created this world, this personality, and built this consciousness, as you've built this, as you let go of this, so you are going to now start building a new world for yourself, a world of happiness, peace, and joy. So this is what I need you to do. I need you have to be absolutely self-conscious of your all-inclusive nature. You really have to. Your God, knowing that you are the God self. And that God self is equipped with everything that you need to be happy, to be joyous. It is your supply. It is the one that will sustain your body. So you have to be conscious. You can't be passive. You have to absolutely become conscious of this of your self-inclusive nature. You also have to realize and identify yourself with the God self. I remember some years ago when God was teaching me these things. I would say, oh, I am consciousness. I am this. I am God. I am Christ. You can say you are Christ. You can preach all these things. Yes, it's good. It's a confession you are making. But if you are not if you do not consciously apply those things, if you don't believe in them, it's just like pouring water and then the water will just roll. But you have to commit your life. Well, for me, my experiences in life, after I tried everything to heal myself from my own depression, from my own pain, from my grief, from my sorrow, I could not. It was so hard being a counselor, a psychotherapist by myself. I treat other people, I help other people. But when it came to myself, it was so difficult. And I remember one of those days praying. I said, God, give me the answers to mental health issue. Because I go to my office, people come to see me. They come in the morning, my garbage bin is empty. Before, at the end of the day, it's filled with tissue. Every tissue had a story. Every tissue had a pain. Every tissue had emotions tied to it. When they cry, I cry with them. And I wonder, does God really exist? If God exists, why is he allowing people to suffer? Why can't he help them? And I remember one day I prayed, I said, God, I see people living, drinking their tears. I said, God, if you really are God, please give me the answer to mental health issue. Give me the answer to anxiety, depression, and all human suffering. Of course, there are people who have discovered things, so why shouldn't I be the one to invent answer for mental health? So I prayed to God, I said, give me the answers to these problems so that I can help understand the problems, I can help understand the mind of the people who are coming to see me and how best I can help them. And I hope that's why I'm really emphasizing that you need to do these things, you need to apply them. You cannot be passive. Like I said, you cannot be a human being and be a spirit. You have to pick one and then dwell on that. So, Self-realization and self-identification with your God self, it's very, very important. It's one of the powerful foundation that you can build for yourself and build the world you want to blossom in. Be completely self-realized that you are Christ. And that self-identity has to be identified with your God self, knowing that your God self is an all-inclusive being. I'm saying that your God self is an all-inclusive being. I'm emphasizing that because that is where lies your power. This self-inclusive being is equipped with everything: joy, peace, happiness, power, unlimited possibilities is all inbuilt. And by God's self, by your all-inclusive being, your God self, I mean realizing that your God self is an all-inclusive. It's everywhere at all times and is fully present in all totality. God doesn't leave a part of himself somewhere. God is complete at all time, this moment, now. And you consist of that same power and nature, fully present, or present 100% here and now. So I need you to know that this God self is not just a word. You have to identify yourself, and you have to understand the depth of its power, the depth of the power that you have. Your possibilities, your potential, your ultimateness lies in your recognition of your God self. So living in your God self, your true mind and only mind, so living in your God self, your true and only mind. Let's take some time and talk about this God self, because it's very important that you know that this thing I'm saying is not just fiction. It is real. So what is this God self? I want you to know that first of all, this is a picture of your God self. So in this situation where your soul wakes up from her sleep, when your soul wakes up from your sleep, this is a picture of how your mind looks like. Complete, perfect. There is happiness. The soul and the spirit are now in union as it has always been. There is happiness, there is peace, there is joy, there is wholeness, completeness, perfection, harmony, wealth. So, this is what your God self entails: power, might, possibilities. So I want you to know that you have a God self nature in you. This God self nature is the complete consciousness of God. This God self nature is the presence of God in you. And it is the source of all your supply. Everything you will ever need, everything you need or you ever need is there in this God self. Your God self is that activating motive. It is that activator which brings inner peace, which brings joy, happiness, and all the things from the unseen world. It brings it into manifestation. I want to repeat this. This God self is that activating motive which brings inner peace, joy, happiness, and all the things from the unseen world into manifestation. Just like in creation, God just said in the day of the Lord, God said, "Let us make man." Just like in creation, a desire was made by God. Let us make man in our likeness and in our image. And this word that God said, the Logos, became flesh, by reason of God's action. Just like the eternal action of all of creation, where the Bible accounts that God said, let there be light, there was light. Let there be trees, let there be animals. Just by that word, just like the eternal action of all of creation, we see and we know, we read of the account of how God created the creation. The God self is that quickening spirit which brought all things into manifestation here and now. And that spirit is Christ. That spirit is your God self. This God self it's not just in me alone. The 7.5 billion people in the world have this God self. Everyone who is alive have this God self. The life in every man is God. The mind in everyone is God. So don't go about asking questions about the mind from a human being. A human being will never know the mind. God is mine. You are mine. You are the God self. The life in every man is God. The one alone being. The one God. The one being. The one life. The one mind. And this is the only one who exists. So this God self is the mind. This God self is God himself. So God and mind is one and the same thing. This God self is programmed to sustain your body. So dear soul, the reason your body is failing you with panic attacks, with depression, with anxiety, and the reason why so many people are struggling with sickness and disease is because they are not aware, or they have not recognized, realized, identified with their God self. Some people have, I'm sure, let me know in the comments below, are you aware of this self? If God had not revealed this to me, I wouldn't have known. So I believe that there are so many people who are not aware of their God self. So dear soul, the only way to control your mind is to live your life out of this God self. This is the only state of being. This is the only consciousness where you can live an inward, blissful life. A life free from panic attack. A life free from depression. A life free from diseases. I know the human world will tell you they'll celebrate meditation. And of course, there is the holier than thou personality. Those ones that claim that they are the ones to represent, they are the ones representing God on the earth. I call them the holier than thou personality because it is that same personality clothed in robes and claiming that they are representing God. So the meditation, a holier than thou personality, will not be able to control the human, illusionary, useless, and unreal mind, because it is even foolishness that the same personality who goes and sits and wear robe saying that they are claiming that they are representing God is being controlled by that same personality. So I will encourage you to let go of that personality. Start living your life out of your God self. And don't just brag and say, oh, my God self, I'm God, I've listened to this message, I am good, I'm this, I am that. No. Until the identification, realization, awareness, and recognition of your God self, your spirit being, until you recognize this self, until you become aware of this self, until you accept this self, this God self, who is your spirit being, who is who you are. This is your true self. The one who watches you, the one who watches over you when you sleep, the one who gives you the air you breathe on a daily basis, the one who created the brain. You see how they'll say the brain is as if the brain has become God. The one who created the brain and your entire body. Your God self is your powerhouse. It is fully equipped with infinite possibilities. Your soul must wake up for you to be able to live a happy life. Your soul must wake up and reconnect to illuminate her complete being. It's just like you have cable. You have cable and there is no light. If you don't turn on that switch, you will still be in the darkness. You won't be able to have light. If you need to plug it somewhere for electricity to come, you need to plug it. If you do not plug it, you won't have light. You won't have energy. So, your soul needs to recognize. Your soul needs to connect back to her true self by waking up and switching on the light of Christ, the light of God, so that your world can be bright again. And so, I hope I have been able to answer your question. In a nutshell, how do you control your mind? The only way you can control the human mind is to let go of your false sense, is to let go of the false image you have believed yourself to be. Let go of your beliefs. Let go of your opinions and systems of belief. For as you let go of your beliefs, your opinion, your systems of belief, the personality, the human ideology, and all the baggage that comes with it. At the same time, your God self, the light of God presence, will dispel every darkness in your life by simply revealing the truth to you. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Your God self will not bind and cast. Your God self will not heal. He will not try to fix anything because you are perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that your soul slept. Once your soul slept, once your soul wakes up, she'll realize that the light of God's presence is all over her, and she will start seeing the truth. It is only the truth that can set you free. Don't expect to be healed. There is nothing to heal because you are perfect. It's just that you've believed and lived in a lie. As the God self is recognized within you, all human beliefs, your own beliefs, your opinions, and all the vaults and your storehouse, your consciousness evaporates. Identifying yourself with the God self acts as you letting go of all your false sense of identity. By identifying, by recognizing, by realizing, by becoming aware, by accepting your God self, it's a self-realization. It becomes a self-awareness and acceptance of your God self. And this act as a kind of eradicates your panic attacks As you identify, as you recognize, as you realize, that realization kind of wipe out, just take off that darkness, eradicates your panic attacks, eliminates those popping thoughts in your head with truth, because you have let go of the false personality. You now detach yourself, because now you know that the personality is not who you are. And now you are aware that the personality was hiding. Now you've become aware that the personality was hiding behind your body. And once you cut off that personality, it has no connection. It was just an assumption. Once you cut off that personality and all the beliefs and all this mountain of vaults that has built this empire of consciousness, as you let go of those things, you realize that the body is just the same body. And what happens? As you let go of this thing, your God self now fills your mind with life and light. So because you've let go of the false personality, you are able to detach your body from its influence completely and accept your true self, which is Christ. By this letting go, that is how you experience freedom. So the clearing away of false beliefs, false opinion, personality brings clarity, and you find heaven here and now. You realize that heaven is not a geographic location. Heaven, you don't have to be in heaven only when you die. You can be in heaven now. As a matter of fact, heaven is here and now. So this recognition and awareness, this identification and realization brings truth and reality. And it opens up a door of revelation, of truth, here and now. And so, my friend, dear soul, this is the truth that will set you free. This is the truth that sets me free. This is how I was able to get my freedom from panic attack, from depression, from anxiety, from pain and suffering. I had to let go of all these things. These things, beliefs, these were the price I used to pay to gain Christ. And when I accepted my God self, I needed to let go, because I could not hold my God self, the Christ, my prototype, and be holding this world. It wasn't possible, so one needed to go. And I let this go. And so, once you understand that this personality, the systems of belief, all this consciousness, it's not connected to yourself, to your body, what happens? Then you start living your life as a spirit being. As a spirit, you are invisible. The God self is an invisible expression of this visible self. So your mind is now filled with a complete mind, perfect the way God created it. And your mind starts reflecting. Your mind, as you think of happiness, God will now lead you. God will now direct you. God will now empower you. God will give you everything as you listen to His word, as you listen to the still small voice, because the still small voice is the God in you. As you hear His direction, as you follow its leading, it will lead you to a good path. It will lead you to a happy life. It will lead you to a purposeful life, a life where you will live to your fullest potential. So dear soul, this is how to control your mind. You cannot control what you do not know. So I started by giving us an explanation of what is the mind, our mind by default. The creator, the one who puts you together. This is how He created your mind, and this is how He expects your mind to function. After knowing what your mind is, we now have to explain what happened along the way, and how can we recover from that? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoy making it. If you have any question, please drop it in the comments below. I will be so happy to answer your question. I know this video is very long, but thank you so much for tuning in. If you are still watching, well, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.